Hey everyone, it's Peter from Rock Daydream Nation. And look, I've got back to the channel, Bicycle Legs. How are you, my friend?
Always a pleasure to be on Rock Daydream Nation, Peter, and looking forward to talking about this album.
Absolutely. One of my favorite New Zealand bands, Split Enz. We're going to talk about their final album, the ninth album from 1984, See Around. A little bit of a dark horse album. So that's the premise of this show, Daniel, that I think it's a very underrated album. Didn't even get a release in America, got a belated release in Canada, and it's in the catalogue of Split Enz. It tends to be a little bit ignored. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a forgotten item within the band as well, because they as pretty much as soon as they dropped this album, or even before they dropped this album, they announced their farewell tour. And this album kind of got lost in the whole hoo-ha around that farewell tour. And if you go and have a look at the charting positions, even here in New Zealand, it didn't do particularly well.
No, it didn't. And we'll talk about that because I think maybe the rot had set with conflicting emotions, which should have done much bigger business. I think Split Enz were kind of on the commercial downward spiral. Anyway, so this album has got a lot of fantastic songs. We're going to showcase the songs. We're going to talk about all things Split Enz. We might have a little bit of a yak about Tim Finn and his solo career because it's all part of the story. So, Daniel, what was your first impression of this album in the day? Assuming you bought it in the day, which I did.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a Split Enz fan from time I was 10 years old. So, yeah, I bought this, as soon as it was released, as soon as I had the pocket money to buy it, because this came out when I was 13. And, it was kind of clouded when it first came out because, like, the band were breaking up. I was dirty with my parents because they wouldn't let me go to the farewell show in Brisbane. Um, you know, but it's a really good album. And, as we talk into the songs, there's some songs on here that should have been hits and absolutely weren't. But, it's an interesting album because, as you sort of allude to, it's the only Split Enz album that doesn't have Tim Finn on it. So that
Yeah.
makes it unique in their catalogue to start with.
Yeah, I sort of think this album's like McCartney too. First side, top loaded with hits. Second side, extremely experimental. So I think it's an album of two sides. I think a lot of folks may have been put off with the experimental side. Now, the experimental side of it was more by not by design, by choice, because they had to fill it up. Because initially, the first 5 or 6 tracks, or first 5 tracks, was going to be an EP, and then this whole morphed into an idea that we need to do an album, and it's a bit of a licorice all sorts, isn't it? The second side filling in, sort of interesting tracks from different members of the band. But it sort of adds in the totality of the album to something quite interesting, a very interesting listening experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, why don't we get down to business and we'll talk about the songs per se. When I first heard this song, Breaking My Back was the song. I thought Split Enz are back. Not that they ever went away, but, the wonderful pop hooks of Neil Finn. There's so much pop confectionery. And when I say pop confectionery, I'm saying hooks, melodic hooks that really get you in. They're memorable. And the band sounds really engaged and they're firing on all cylinders. I guess I'm setting the scene for you. Take it
Yeah.
away. What do you think of this
I
song?
mean, it's a great album opener. It really is. And what you get, I think, is you get a bit of a tone for the album, or certainly for side one of the album, where it's got that Split Enz sound, certainly that 80s Split Enz sound, but a little more guitar heavy, Not heavy as in, heavy rock or anything, but just there's more guitar compared with keyboards. You know, Split Enz were always a very keyboard dominated band. And this album, the keyboards are still there, lots of them. You know, you can't keep Eddie down when it comes to a Split Enz record. But there's more guitar on this album, and you get that in this song. And it's a really, really good song. It's a catchy song. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't released as a single. Although, I mean, we'll talk about the two songs that were released as singles off this album. And, you know, they didn't really do anything. So I guess the idea of a third single off this album just wasn't going to fly. So, but it's really catchy, and it's a great lyric from Neil too. Um, you know, it's at times playful, but at times it's also quite serious. You know, the idea that, you know, the weight of the world is breaking his back, and that's a little autobiographical because, I mean, he decided to break Split Enz up after Tim said he was leaving the band. So I think he felt like he had the weight of the world's expectations on his back, you know, leading Split Enz, and that's why he decided to knock it on the head and start again with Crowded House. But yeah, no, it's a terrific first song.
Yeah, it's a great lyric. I agree. I think it's biographical. I think that he is saying that I'm literally breaking my back, and I've got the weight of this band on my shoulders. Because you look at the videos that came out of this album, you look at all the promos, the interviews, he's front and center. So, yeah. And I guess, it was breaking his back because the question that was always inevitably asked, where's Tim? What's happening to Tim? Do you miss Tim? Tim this, Tim that. So it was probably a wise move that they had to just press reset and form Crowded House. But for Split Enz nuts like me, probably, I don't know, I've got mixed feelings. I think there is some healthy keyboard in this, and Eddie. I think the bits and pieces of the song that I really enjoy is Eddie Raynor's keyboard sampling. Now, in this era around 83, 84, string stabs were very prevalent. The ZTT sound, the Trevor Horn. So there's a lot of string stabs, very dramatic. I think the guitar work on this song is very strong. I kind of relate it to like surf guitar, really bendy guitar sounds, he's bending the strings and surfy guitar sounds. I think that's Neil Finn, who's playing a lot of the lead guitar. Nigel Griggs, bass player. I know you're a big Nigel fan. His bass lines are really great. Hey, I'm going to play a little bit of an extract from the song. This is my favorite part. Sounds very Pink Floyd, like
sort of momentary lapse of reason. Yeah.
Yes. Guitar. The string stab. I just love that.
Yeah, it's a great bridge, and that sort of choppy guitar that Neil plays in that part, it's great. And Eddie's doing like great keyboard things. He's doing the stabs on the strings and that sort of thing, but he's also sort of almost creating sound effects, to add to it as well. And I love that too.
Yeah, absolutely. But it kind of like that synth line reminded me of Off Dark Side of the Moon. Some of the older like Moog synth lines from the early 70s. All right, let's go on to the second track, which was the I Walk Away. So this was the first single off the album. I think it nudged top 40. I don't think it did that well. It should have been a huge hit. Before I gab any further, I'll leave it to you. Tell me what you think of this song.
Well, yeah, I remember when the song came out and I saw the film clip on Countdown and, it's a great fun film clip, as most of their film clips were. But yeah, it's such a catchy song. And again, very autobiographical, the lyric, He's talking about leaving Split Enz. That's what he's walking away from when he's talking about, I walk away from you. He's talking about walking away from this band. And, you know, it's really catchy. Again, you talk about middle sections of songs. The middle section of this one gets kind of moody again. And then, like, there's this guitar that Neil is playing. And then there's this beautiful interplay between Paul Hester on drums and Noel Crombie on the percussion. Paul's holding the beat down and Noel is playing all this tasty percussion over the top of it. And it's absolutely wonderful. But it's a catchy ass song. And I think it got to number 29 on the Australian chart. It should have gone so much higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's if you listen to all these songs, you point to that one, you say, yep, that's the single. And,
Yep.
and some of our viewers may know this, some may not. Crowded House actually did a version of this song for their first album. It wasn't on the Australian version of the album, but it was on the overseas version of the album. And he changed some of the lyrics, and it's a very Crowded House sort of arrangement rather than a Split Enz one. I don't like the Crowded House version as well as the Split Enz one, but yeah, it's a terrific song.
Yeah, I think this is spiky. It's got a little bit of tart, and I think there's a lot of emotional connection. I think this song's got a lot of emotional weight, and it's not necessarily, how you make your own lyrics, you can interpret it your own way. It could easily, folks could hear this song and just think about it's walking away from a relationship, walking away from a job, walking away from something that you just want to get the hell away from.
Yes.
You put your own experience into the song. Look, probably the anecdotal evidence is that he was walking away from Split Enz, and it was a very personal thing. But I put a kind of it could be like a romantic, walking from a romantic adventure. But I think it's just got so emotional weight, and the chorus swells. And Neil Finn's got this innate ability to tug the heartstrings. And even though it's a very upbeat song, at the same time, there's a bit of melancholy and this little bit in the middle. I get a shiver up my spine before I even talk about it. When, it's got that surf guitar, it quietens down, and then it goes into the drum duel, which is just perfect pop bliss.
Yeah.
I actually rank this as one of their top 10 best songs ever. I love this song so much. And why don't we have a little bit of a play with this song, and we'll zero in what Bicyclelegs and Peter are talking about. All ramping up. I love this moodiness in the bass line. See the surf guitar?
So
Genius. Just the way it just, the arrangement, perfect. I can't understand why it wasn't a hit. And I want to segue this in to a little quick discussion. Conflicting emotions didn't do well. So do you think Australia just fell out of love with Split Enz, went on to different endeavors? I don't understand. So True Colors, number one. Corroboree, number one. Time and Tide, number one. And
Yep.
then there might have been a little gap, a year or two, and then Conflicting Emotions. That's got Message to My Girl, which is one of the great Split Enz songs, but it was in the lower reaches of the top 40. So why was there such a dive? Have you got a theory about this?
Well, I mean, Conflicting Emotions kind of gives it away in the title because, Tim had gone off and made Escapade, his first solo album, in between Time and Tide and Conflicting Emotions. And when he came back to the band, he didn't have that many songs. And the rest of the band were finding that they preferred Neil's songs over Tim's anyway.
And there's a bit of
So,
angst, I would imagine,
yeah,
a bit of personal
there
angst.
was a bit of headbutting, friendly rivalry between the brothers. And yeah, and also, even though I adore the song, I don't think they picked the right first single off Conflicting Emotions with Straight Old Line. I that's one of my favorite Split Enz songs. I adore that song, but I don't think it was a good choice for a single.
Yeah, it's a bit quirky and eccentric because I call there's a certain quota of Split Enz songs I call it eccentric, where it's really quirky and buzzy, and probably doesn't have that commercial cut through. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't have done. I would have gone with Message to My Girl. I just think it's so strong,
Yeah.
straight into it. But again, there just seemed to be a material drop off of fans, of people that were buying the albums. And is that 80s pop? People are fickle.
Yeah,
A year is a long
exactly.
time. A year is a long time in pop music. And sadly, so this was going to be their big breakthrough album in the Northern Americas. A&M dropped them because there was a lot of returns on Conflicting Emotions, and that's why they weren't chose to pass on the option of releasing See Around, at least in America. Next song is Dr. Love. A bit of a conventional lyric. Do you like this one?
Of the 6 songs on side 1, it's probably my least favorite. It's still got the same sort of sound. That's the thing I do love about this album. It's got a very consistent production, a consistent sound. And I do like it when records do that, when they have a sound of their own. It has that sound, but yeah, the lyrics a bit, it's not one of Neil's best. But it's still a catchy song. There's some nice piano from Eddie on it.
It's a deep
Yeah,
cut. It can't be any more than a deep cut. It's a little bit throwaway. The lyric, Dr. Love, I mean, that's been done so many times.
yeah.
Didn't Gloria Estefan do a Dr. Love? I don't know. Not sure. But
I don't know.
yeah, look, I just think it's a little bit cliched. Sonically, it's interesting. There's a few interesting little bits. Do you like it? The lyric where he's going, I'm going down, 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 down.
Yes.
Down.
But no, you hit the nail on the head with the title. When you're copying titles from Kiss, I love Kiss,
There you go.
when you're copying titles from Kiss, you're getting into cliche territory. So
Yeah, absolutely. So it's still got the eccentric of Split Enz in the song, but it's a little bit throwaway. One Mouth is Fed. I enjoy this song. Now, again, this is an eccentric song, but it's enjoyably eccentric. And I always relate it. It reminds me of a Russian choir. It's got a Russian feel to it, very European. And if I was visualizing, I'd be thinking of a cold, wintry Moscow morning. I don't know. What do you think of this song?
Yeah, I love this song. This was the second single off the album, and it sank without a trace. Like, it did not chart at all.
It's eccentric. It's just too
Yeah.
eccentric. It's, yeah.
I remember them, like, they didn't do an official film clip for this song, but they did do a performance of it on Countdown. And I remember seeing that and really enjoying it. This is the song that has the timpani on it, by the way. And in the verses. And yeah, it gives this sort of tribal jungle feeling, which I really, really like. And, the verses, whereas, the first couple of songs, they're sort of straight pop songs, but then they've got this moody bit in the middle. This one's got the moody bits all through the verses, and then you get the brighter choruses. But then, the lyric is a kind of a dark lyric, as one mouth is fed, another is denied. Why all the tears we're crying with delight? It's an angsty lyric from Neil
It
on this
is.
one.
It's socially observant, but the hook is that sample of it's like a, I don't know, quadruple track Russian choir. The deep barrel. I don't know. It's
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So look, very baffling that they picked that as the second single and they didn't do Breaking My Back, or they could have picked one of the other ballads like Voices. I could have had, look, I'm going ahead of myself here, but out of all the songs, this would be one of the least likely I would have picked as a single. Years Go By. This is a co-write between Neil and Eddie Rayner. What do you think of this song?
Yeah. It's a gorgeous song. It's an absolutely gorgeous song. And, again, great lyric from Neil. Years go by, wonder what you did, yet in a minute it can change your life. All depends on your state of mind. One thing to be sure of is we live and die. So again, he's kind of angsty, but again, beautiful keyboards in the verses. And it's really well sung by Neil. That's the other thing we need to point out with this album. Neil is singing up a storm on this album. His vocals are absolutely wonderful. And then towards the end of the song, we get this incredible guitar solo from him. It's just absolutely on fire. And Neil he's never been particularly big on his guitar skills. Like, he never sort of bigs himself up on how good a guitar player he is and all that. This is one of 2 or 3 guitar solos he played in Split Enz that he was particularly proud of. So that's something to sort of weigh up when you're thinking of this song as well.
Do you think he's doing the Guitar Hero bit because he thinks he's got extra weight on his shoulders? Tim's gone. Maybe it's an overcompensating type of action that he feels that he has to, ramp it up and get the guitar out. Because I noticed that there's a lot of guitar on this album, much more than any of their other albums. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot to do with the fact that Neil is the driving force.
Stepping up to the plate
of the
sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm stepping up to the plate. I think this is a beautiful song. It's it's kind of it's got that Beatles feel to it, that melody. I could imagine this is the sort of a melody that a John Lennon and McCartney in the Rubber Soul era, it'd be floating around, just to give you a bit of an idea. But boy, it's when it does shift, the stick drive goes into another gear. It's really rocking and quite unexpected. And this is the thing I like about this album. There's lots of unexpected moments where melody, key changes, rhythm changes. It definitely keeps you on your toes. And that's the wonderful thing about this band. They're definitely not straight old line. They do wonderful and wacky things. Voices. I love this song. It's kind of old school. It's kind of music hall. I'm not a big fan of music hall, but it's got that. It's so sentimental, and when the voices are harmonizing, and it's kind of rousing and tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
And again, sorry, I'm gabbing on a bit, but this is something that McCartney would probably go, ooh, I like this one.
Yeah.
It's right up his alley.
You might not know this, Peter, but this musically, this song was something that Neil wrote when he was about 18. So back in 1976, before he'd even joined Split Enz, he was in a band back in New Zealand called After Hours. And this was a song that was originally called Fallout with the Lads. And yeah, it was something that he'd written. They'd never used it in Split Enz, and when they were getting material together for this album, he remembered that song, wrote new lyrics for it, which became Voices. And it's a gorgeous melody for a teenager to have written, you know. Um, and um, and you also get a really great sax solo from Wilbur
Wilbur
Wild on it.
Wild. Yes. So there were two sax players that were doing the traps in the 80s. You'd either get Joe Camilleri or Wilbur Wild, and there he is,
Yeah.
Wilbur Wild. Tasty sax. Um, I just think it's a song that really just tugs at the heartstrings, but it's not maudlin, and
Mm.
it's not. It's there are some of those music hall numbers that are on the wrong side of the ledger. They're just a little bit cheesy. It's right in the pocket, you know,
Yeah.
on the right side of the coin.
And
Okay.
the other thing is that you mentioned with you mentioned on the album, and I mentioned it too, how much more guitar there is on this album. There's virtually none on this song. It's almost all Eddie on the keyboards, and then that gorgeous sax solo from Wilbur Wild. But it's piano and synths, and Nigel doing his thing on the bass, and just a great little groove from Paul Hester too.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a
absolutely.
terrific song, a great way to end side one.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing with the piano, it's got that slightly, I can imagine it's been played on an upright piano and slightly out of tune. You know, that little
Mm,
tinkly, honky tonk piano
yeah,
sound. It's just right for the song. Okay, well, folks, well, that's side one. That's the commercial side, well, as commercial as Split Ends would get. Flip it over, and this is where it's experimental. And it's
yeah,
a bit of a licorice all sorts. And yeah, we start off with The Lost Cat. Interesting move to start off a side of an album with an instrumental. Because
yeah, and
Eddie Rayner always, he does these instrumentals, and it's usually the last track on each side. But
yeah,
very bold.
yeah, it is. And not only is it an instrumental to start side two, it's a nearly, it's a 5.5, 6 minute instrumental at that. It's quite lengthy by Split End standards, and it's it sounds like film music to me. It sounds like it should be the soundtrack to something.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think it's strong. I
mm,
think it meanders. I like his instrumental work, but I think it's one of the lesser ones.
yeah,
It doesn't.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a meander head scratch. That's all I
Yeah.
can say. I
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole thing about side two is, as you alluded to earlier in the video, they were trying to pad out what was an EP into an LP. And the way they did it on side two is Neil basically said, everybody come up with a song. So so you get a song from each member of the band on side two of the record. And that's how they made so, and it created some interesting choices. And yeah, I mean, other Eddie Rayner instrumentals. I love Whale from Corroboree. I love
Oral C.
yeah, Double Happy. Um Double Happy is one of my son's favorite Split End songs. Absolutely loves that. But yeah, it's definitely more of a soundtracky sort of song. It's not a rock song, and it feels a little out of place on the album.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to challenge you once we get through these songs for you to on the spot put it in the order of what your track listing would. I've got a bit of an idea, so I'll throw it to you. So just keep that in your back of your mind as we're going through this. Next one is Nigel Griggs with
Yeah.
Ads. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting song. Nigel didn't get a lot of writing credits with Split Ends. He got a few co-writes on Time and Tide, which are some great songs. And the only other song he wrote on his own was a song from the Rootin' Tootin' Lootin' tapes, which ended up on the Canadian version of Frenzy, which was a song called Livin' It Up, which is like a basically a 90-second punk screed. So it's an interesting choice. And then yeah, this song, it's got the Split Enz sort of vibe to it. It really does. But it's got Nigel singing the lead vocal, so it's a little more nasally than Neil is, although Neil contributes some rather great backing vocals on it.
Dare I
But
say, he sounds very Kiwi. It's very much
well,
the New Zealand.
that's funny because Nigel Griggs is English, but
Well,
um,
it sounds Kiwi anyway.
yeah, but yeah, it's a really good song. I really like it a lot, and you kind of wonder why Nigel didn't get to contribute a couple extra songs to the band over the years.
Yeah. Do you think it's a throwback to pre True Colors, the old Split Ends, where they were wildly experimental and uncommercial? It's a bit of a throwback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before Nigel joined Split Ends, he was in a couple of prog groups in the sort of early to mid 70s. So, um, definitely got some of the weirder ideas, and I like that about it. But I think it's, probably of the songs on side two, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Okay. This is massive, Paul Hester. So
Yeah.
this has got a bit of a rockabilly feel, isn't it? A little bit of chugs along.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a song that they would do a lot in Crowded House. After after Split Enz broke up and Crowded House started going, Crowded House did a lot of busking sort of thing, as publicity. They would go out into the streets and busk, or they would go onto TV shows and play, just acoustic guitar, bass, and like stand up drums with Paul Hester playing the brushes.
Mm.
And they would do this song a lot. And yeah, no, it's great. It's typical Paul Hester in that it's, a cheeky lyric. It's, kind of funny. But again, this is Paul singing it too, and he's got a really good voice. He got to sing a couple of songs in Crowded House as well, but I would love to have heard Paul do a bit more singing. After he left Crowded House, he did his own band for a bit called Largest Living Things. And he was the lead singer for that band, and I really liked them. But no, it's a great song, but it definitely has that sort of busky feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one of the strongest songs on side two. Then we got Kia Kana, which is Ever Be Strong. This has got a really bit of an interesting history. This was originally the B side, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was a song that they recorded during the Conflicting Emotions sessions, and it got left off Conflicting Emotions because they needed to put another Tim song on. Tim didn't have enough songs on Conflicting Emotions, so they took this off. They used it as a B-side. When Conflicting Emotions came out in New Zealand, there was actually a bonus disc, like a bonus 12-inch, and it had another Tim song on it called Parasite, and it had Kia Kaha. And then so yeah, he brought it onto this album because it was a song he was always very, very proud of, Neil. And rightly so too, because it's a really good song. It's again autobiographical. It's talking about his sort of teenage years, his high school years, and Kia Kaha was the Maori slogan of his school, like the motto. And yes, it meant ever be strong. Um, so it's a really, really good song. It's probably better than one or two of the songs on side one even. So
Yeah, Kia Kaha. I'll just correct the pronunciation, or my wife will slap me. She's a Kiwi. Yeah, so Ever Be Strong. I love the vocal harmonization. I think it's really sweet. And it's got like that really pastoral flute bit, that really rapid flute line. It's a surprise packet right at the end of the album. And then we finish up with the resident eccentric genius, Noel Crombie, the heart and soul of Split Enz, with Ninny Knees Up.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you love this song.
It's great fun. They did this song on their final tour too. If you get the Living Ends, which is the live double album that was recorded on the Ends with a Bang tour, they do Ninny Knees Up live, and it's an absolute rave up. Again, this was originally a B-side, but not a Split Ends B-side. Noel Crombie did a one-off single as a solo artist, and it was a cover of an old country and western song called "My Voice Keeps Changing on Me," and the B-side of it was the original version of "Ninny Knees Up," but it's instrumental. It doesn't have the little rant that he has on it. Which to me is what makes the song. I mean, the actual track is just kind of a lot of nutty sound effects and that sort of thing, and that's fine for what it is. But then you get Noel doing this whole "I'm getting up, I'm going out," telling this whole story about getting his ninny knees up. And if you'll allow me to get really nerdy for a minute or so. When Neil first joined the band in 1977, they were based in the UK, and he went and he lived with Noel for a while. And they used to have little jam sessions in their cottage, with Neil on his guitar and Noel on his percussion and all that sort of thing. And they used to call themselves the Ninnies. So that's where the title comes from. This is a Ninny Knees Up. So, yeah, it's a great way to end the album. And one last little thing. If you get the original vinyl and you play it on a record player like mine that is a manual record player, so it doesn't automatically lift the needle at the end of the record, it's got a locked groove. So if you leave it on, it will just keep going until you lift the needle. So, yeah.
I confirmed, because I've got the original Mushroom first pressing, and I also have a manual record player. So there you go. All right. I'll throw to you. So how would you reorganize the songs for side two? I'll start it off, and then you can tell me what you think. I would probably start off with the first track is "This Is Massive." I think that's pow. Yeah. That's a good. I like where Ads is. Then I do Kaha, and then I would do the Ninny Knees Up, and then the Lost Cat. I think the instrumental needs to be the last track on the album. That's my order.
Yeah. So
what do you think?
I'm going to disagree with you on a couple of points there, because I think Ninny Knees Up absolutely has to end the album. It's the perfect choice for the closing track. I think you're right with This Is Massive. I think that's a great way to start side two. But then I would probably go, after This Is Massive, I would go Kaha. Then I like The Lost Cat followed by Ads, because if you listen to it on the record, there's kind of a segue between those two tracks. So I like that. And so I'd probably go This Is Massive, Kaha, Lost Cat, Ads, and then Ninny Knees Up to finish the album.
There you go. Well, that's what we do on Rock Daydream Nation. We're really Split Enz nerdish, and we're arguing about side two track listing. I might even, I'll go onto Spotify and put my own little playlist, and I'll put it in that order and my order and play it and see how it flows. So, any final thoughts on this album other than you love it?
I mean, it's a great way to end a career. You know, it's a really good album. When I did my Split Ends ranking both on my channel and then we did it again over on Rock Daydream Nation, I ranked this about mid-tier of their catalog. You know, there's definitely albums I like better than this one, but there's also albums of theirs. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad Split Ends album. Absolutely not. But there are albums that I like less than this one. And so this one's, yeah, sort of a middle of the pack album. It's probably a better album than it had any right to be, considering the turmoil in which it was created. And it certainly deserved a much better reaction from the public than it got, because it really got completely overshadowed by the Ends with a Bang tour. And as a result, it just didn't sell very many copies. And that's a shame, because they obviously liked it. They were opening all their shows on the Ends with a Bang tour with I Walk Away. So, and they were playing Years Go By, they were playing Ninny Knees Up, you know, so they obviously thought highly of this album, but unfortunately, yeah, it just didn't get through to the record buying public.
Absolutely. And the last time I saw Split Ends in their reunion 10 years ago, I Walk Away was in the song list. And you and I, you're in Brisbane, I'm in Sydney, are seeing the Ends. And I Walk Away. I expect that to be in the song list. It is that strong a song. But I'm like you. I probably rank this at the middle. And I listen to this quite frequently. If I go into the cabinet, I always seem to pull this out at least once a year. It just gives me a lot of joy. And I think out of the 11 tracks, there's probably one, which we've already talked about, that I'm not really fussed on, but the rest of it, I love it. It's such an enjoyable listen. Well, thank you, Bicycle Legs. Wonderful to get you back on Split Ends. We're going to do lots more shows in 2026, and we love talking about Australian and New Zealand music. It needs to get a spotlight on, and we're going to continue to champion that in this year and beyond. Please check out Bicycle Legs Does Music, his channel. I'll put the link below. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Tell us what you think of this album, where it ranks in the Split End discography. We love reading your comments, good, bad, or indifferent. But one thing's for sure, me and Bicycle Legs, we're going to do more shows very soon. Catch you later. All the best. And cheers. See you later.